Are you supposed to disclose a pet cemetery? What's the appropriate way to do that? Crazy questions. Here's my hot take on a recent real life situation that came up in the triangle. All right, so picture this. A buyer client recently went under contract to purchase this house on a wooded lot in a rural community. And during the due diligence period, they discovered, there was a large animal cemetery on the property with all of these unmarked graves. So the buyer was uncomfortable with this, obviously, and they decided to terminate. They got really mad and they notified the listing agent that the cemetery should have been disclosed, and they argued that they should be getting their due diligence fee back. Makes sense. So the listing agent said, hey, this was disclosed. Look at the septic permit that was in documents on MLS. So they looked at the septic permit and they found there that there was a diagram that referenced the cemetery. Okay, so the question is, does this count as a disclosure? What ended up happening with it? Well, the Real Estate Commission for North Carolina, because that's where these things go to then, suggested that this cemetery really wasn't disclosed in the correct way. It should have been mentioned in the remarks on MLS. By the way, those are agent remarks. Only agents can see them. Your agent should be passing those along to you. At any rate, everybody would have seen it. It's easy to see. It's on the first page of the MLS for the property. So that is where it should have gone. And here's the thing. All material facts need to be disclosed to buyers when you're selling a house, right? And material facts are generally understood as concrete facts that have the ability to alter a transaction's outcome. Okay, so if the pet cemetery was deemed to have been reasonably known by the sell side, they should have disclosed this in a clear manner. They had the septic information where it was marked, and if it looked like a pet cemetery in the backyard, there's a little paw sticking up out of the ground, then yes, of course they should have made that incredibly clear to people. Caveat to buyers, of course, buyers need to look into everything that they can, but this should have been disclosed. And it's weird to me, honestly, when I hear about people trying to hide stuff like this, because when I'm listing a house, I know what's going to come up anyway. You don't want to go under contract with a buyer who then finds that there's something major and then they want to fight you about it. That is just stupid in my mind. It's really better for the seller and everybody to make sure that the buyer knows as best they can what kind of house they're buying before they plunk down a bunch of money. You don't want to get into these fights later on. That's just dumb. Anyway, so the commission ruled that the listing broker in this story did not take reasonable steps to disclose this material fact, an important one, that there were animals buried in the backyard, many of them. So that meant that the buyer then had a strong legal argument if they wanted to pursue a legal claim to recover this due diligence fee. It sounds like to me the moral of the story is disclose your material facts, everybody, especially the big ones like this. Sometimes you have sellers who feel bad that, they've got something major wrong with the house, but too bad. The seller, I guess, felt bad they had a bunch of fluffies buried in the backyard, but tough nuts. Because it sounds like not disclosing them came back to haunt them. But